Hi everybody, this is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, I'm starting a couple of minutes early here tonight, but I got a lot of great information. I have updated my site for the final time on May the 27th in the year of our Lord 2024. Happy Memorial Day. If you've noticed, I've updated my background in honor of Memorial Day and all the soldiers that have given up so much, even their lives, to make our country a great country. Not necessarily what the Democrats with Joe Biden are trying to do to our country, but to make our country a great country, freedom for all. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, I do have a lot of great information today. I might go a little long. Got some information from Truth Bomb Mary. Got some information from Russell Brand. Also from Wendy Bell. Okay, let's come over here to Murtech on Rumble and take a look at this. All right, this is the video you're looking at right now. USA Watchdog, Bill Holter with Bill Holter, Russell Brand, Truth Bomb Mary, Fire and Ice, and also Wendy Bell. So let me close this out. Pause that. All right. Uh-oh. Here we go. Okay, my PC's acting a little weird. All right, here's the video you're looking at. Okay, scroll down here, and in the description box are all the details of the live stream tonight. Before we get into that, I want to give a shout out here to some people. Gerald Sr. just started following my channel. Also, Shalupton just started following my channel. And Bapper Afrath, sorry, just started following my channel. EJ, the Israelite, just started following my channel. Debbie BS gave me a comment on my Andrew Clavin video. Lightning Tree Band also commented on my Michael Knowles video. That happens to be Truth Bomb Mary. I'm going to share a video from her tonight. K Rocky commented on my Wendy Bell radio. Josie James commented on my USA Watchdog video. And K Rocky also commented on my Andrew Clavin video. So let me give this the thumbs up. See how easy that was? And thank you so very much, folks, for your comments. I greatly enjoy reading them. And I certainly appreciate you folks following my channel. I hope you like the live stream this evening. Okay, in fact, I do have a comment of the day from Tracy, 1991. Let's click on this. It takes us over here to the Wendy Bell video. Appreciate all you do. Hubby and I always watch your channel every Sunday. A big thank you. Well, a big thank you to you, Tracy. I hope you're watching again tonight. Okay, USA Watchdog, next 6 months, completely insane with Bill Holter. Whew, let's see what that's all about. I started this up here at the 8-minute and 37-second mark. To get past some introductions and things of that nature.
War. There's no talk of peace. They're funneling money into Ukraine. The UK wants war. Everybody seems to want war. Tony Blinken is, instead of talking peace, and you do have some of the Ukrainian generals saying we should give up the eastern half of the country, the eastern third of the country, all the way down to the Russian border, including Crimea, which is their port, the Russian port. But nobody wants to. Everybody wants to have war. They want to send in special operators. They want to have nuclear weapons. Send F-16s. They want. This is unbelievable. You know, we're flashing a new, a new bomber out to the world. It just seems everybody wants war. Why? Am I wrong? Does everybody want war? A, and B, why?
Well, first off, everybody doesn't want war. The people who want war are, quote, the powers that be. And the powers that be are now cornered mathematically, financially. And I've said this for 10 years now, that at some point they would have to kick the table over to cover their tracks. And what better way to kick the table over than to be able to say, well, everything was working fine until World War III. And I mean, that's a way to kick the table over and cover your tracks. And that's, I think, what they're doing.
We are having an awakening with these shots. I mean, and I don't revel in this. I brought this up in my wrap-up, and it's bad. I mean, when you have the former CDC director on with a guy who says he's vax injured, Chris Cuomo, let me just go full screen. He's saying he's vax injured, being treated with ivermectin by a medical doctor. This is the former CDC director, ex-CDC Robert Redfield, who says that we should have a 9/11 commission for the effects of COVID. It's bad. People are dropping over dead. There was 14 billion injections worldwide, roughly 17 million injections in America. This is not going to stop. How much does this CV-19 bioweapon vax awakening and people like Chris Cuomo, who's a huge Democrat, and I do not revel in him being injured, okay? He was hooked into this awful psyop, but this is an awakening of this CV-19 vax that's coming. You just had the top cancer doctor in Japan. What did he say? Essentially, it's murder. Dr. Manasori Fukushima. These are big guns coming out saying this is a kill shot. And 14 billion injections, 700 million in America alone, 14 billion globally. Is this part of the kicking the table over, the CV-19 that the mainstream lying legacy media wants to keep gaslighting us on?
Well, first off, Greg, you shouldn't be talking about the vaccines because YouTube will take your channel down again.
Yeah, no, I don't have a YouTube channel anymore.
I know.
You were instrumental in helping it go down, but so go ahead. But I say that as a badge of courage. Good on you. You didn't keep your mouth shut. Good on you. You didn't cash a paycheck on people dying and getting sick, and neither did I. Go ahead.
It is a way to. Well, first off, that's absolutely correct. It turns out, yes, it was a kill shot, and it also. I guess you could say that it adds to the timeline where they have to kick the table over because that's something that they're going to have to hide that. I mean, that has to become backburnered because you're going to have so many people, once you get a majority that's awake to that, you're just going to have people pissed off all over the world. So I think, and of course, this being an election year, I think the next 6 months are going to be completely insane.
Why? What describe?
Well, I mean, you could look at it from the vax standpoint. The deaths. I mean, the deaths are increasing, and the knowledge that the vaccine is the cause is spreading. So I mean, like I said, they're going to have to bring something up to put that on a back burner, and that's probably World War III. We have an election coming up, which I'm on the record. I think I still believe that there's less than 50% or maybe less than 40% chance now that we even have an election. And again, World War III, could be the reason. And from a financial standpoint, you've got commercial real estate that's imploding. You have bank deposits that have fled the banking system. So you've got the financial system really on the rocks. And I'm going to say somebody somewhere in very short order, whether it be the U.S., whether it be more than likely China, somebody had better start cutting interest rates because in the last 6 months, China's debt growth has turned negative, and so has their money supply. And I mean, that's a recipe for complete disaster in an over-levered system. And it's not just China, it's the whole world, it's the whole West. The whole system is over-levered, and liquidity is becoming tighter and tighter. So, like I said, somebody somewhere had better cut rates pretty soon to reflate Otherwise, Richard Russell's inflate or die comes into play.
Poof, that's like standing between a piece of stainless steel and a piece of granite. I mean, you cut rates and gas is, hey, $15 a gallon. Hey, my pension, sure. A coffee at Starbucks is, $25. I mean, isn't that what we're facing if they cut rates? I mean, they're freaking. I mean, Powell is freaking out. And the Fed FMOC, they just had a thing out where they're talking about raising rates. Whoa! They're worried about inflation, are they not? Or what's going on with that? Why are they at the FMOC meeting? Last month I think is what it was. They just released it, and some of them are talking about not cutting rates, about raising rates, let alone cutting rates, and that's not on the table. What's going on with that?
Well, they are fearful of a fiat collapse, and. I'm on the record that they will more than likely cut rates. And what you just said about $15 gas and $25 coffee or whatever, that's going to become a reality. And in the intermediate to long term, interest rates are going to explode. I mean, at this point, there's absolutely zero risk premium, if you will, on interest rates worldwide. I mean, rates need to be much, much higher than they are to support fiat currencies, and that's where I think rates are headed. Rates are headed much, much higher. I mean, in the case of the U.S., there's obviously risk of default, and when I say risk of default, just look at the math. If we're going $1 trillion in debt every 100 days, we're at the hockey stick phase. We're approaching terminal velocity. So from a mathematical standpoint, this is it. I mean, this is the end of the experiment from 1913 with the Federal Reserve. It's the end of the fractional reserve banking experiment. It's all coming home to roost at the same time. And it's not just financial. Like we talked about the shots themselves. People are waking up and figuring out, hey, I got screwed when I took the shot. I got screwed when my company or the government or whoever said I had to take the shot or I didn't have a job.
Look at his face. This is sad. Right. His DNA was edited. He knows by now. He's not stupid. Okay, he's very well connected. He's good with the Cuomo's. He's a big Democrat, and the Democrats could be like, "What? You killed us too? You mean we were just collateral damage? You were playing with the devil. What do you expect the devil to do? Oh, I'll take care of you. Not. I mean, I think that is the Democrats. I think they should be the higher ups, the globalists, deep staters. It's the Democrats they have to be afraid of. These are the people that burned down a couple of $1 billion worth of property in 2020. I don't wish any violence on people, but holy cow. I mean, Cuomo is the poster child of waking up. He's the poster look at his face. He is the poster child, and he's interviewed. He's already been out with this by the time he does his interview. So he's the poster child of, oh my gosh, I'm going to put on the air that, anyway, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here now. Okay, I'm going to pause this here. They go on for some more information. I just wanted to give you some highlights of this. The link to this video is in the description box below. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this does come from Greg Hunter, USA Watchdog. I've given him a thumbs up. Following his channel. Great information. Greg always puts out great information. They go on to talk about that it's not just not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. And there's a lot of Republicans that went along with this, and they are suffering from adverse events from this shot, this jab, the COVID jab. But at any rate, folks, I got a lot of information, and I want to go ahead and share more. But right here's the link if you want to watch the whole thing. All right, Russell Brand. Everything you feared about the media is true, and it's worse than you think. Well, then it must be pretty freaking bad. Let's take a listen. Let me get this back to the beginning for you.
The state is so sprawling and so vast, these interests so powerful, that there are perfectly reasonable people sort of wandering around. I'm involved in activism. I'm doing a good thing. How diffuse are these interests? How do they truly work? And I wonder if you can give us a clear example of how these interests are able to cooperate and how the cartilage of NGOs works.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can start with that cartilage concept, which is a really great way to sort of visualize how state control over media works. So, at the end of World War II, a so-called rules-based international order was constructed. You may have heard this phrase bandied about by folks who are involved in the government or who are involved in sort of official media. They refer to the rules-based international order, which was constructed about 1947, 1948, in the aftermath of World War II, and sort of in between it. We had Bretton Woods in 1942 to 1944. We had the Marshall Plan for Reconstruction of Europe in the 1940s. We had the IMF and World Bank set up. We had the UN set up to tie all the countries together. And we had something called the UN Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which promised national sovereignty to every country on earth as a fundamental right. And within that was a formal prohibition under international law of the acquisition of another country by military force. So the age of empire that existed from the Roman times all the way up until World War II, where you would maintain an empire or you would acquire an empire by sending your military in to take over a territory, became a violation of international law. And so our traditional military and spycraft structures had to switch to another method to achieve a functional territorial acquisition. And that was through political control over a country, or sometimes referred to political, economic, and informational control, which is now known as soft power. So hard power being military, soft power being getting a country under your control because its political leaders are under your control, its courts are under your control, its educational systems are under your control. And one of the main methods to achieve that control is controlling the media ecosystems within that country. That way, the masses of people, its leaders, its courts, all of its decision-making bodies are essentially on brand with whatever the talking points being piped in from U.S. government-sponsored media were saying. And so, starting in 1947, we created in the U.S. the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and we restructured our entire spycraft intelligence apparatus along something that was called the plausible deniability doctrine. And the great starting place for this is one of the godfathers of the CIA. His name was George Kennan. He posted a memo to, this is one of the very first National Security Council documents we have in this country. It's called the Inauguration of Organized Political Warfare in 1948. This is 12 days after the CIA rigged the Italian election in Italy using dirty tricks, stuffing ballot boxes, importing swarms of media, working with both the church and with mafia groups who they had had a liaison relationship with to overthrow Mussolini. And so George Kennan writes a memo saying, listen, we need to start looking at warfare as being political warfare. We need to undergo what he called the inauguration of organized political warfare, a fundamental restructuring of our power projection to engage in organized political warfare on every country on earth in order to swing it into our influence. And if we don't do it, the Bolsheviks are going to do it. So somebody's got to be doing the dirty work. We know America has not traditionally done this in any sort of organized fashion, but this is the new way war has to be done after this UN Declaration on Human Rights. And so with that kickoff, we embarked on a mass, quote, capacity building. This is the phrase that they use in order to get media organizations under CIA or State Department control. And just so you understand, the plausible deniability doctrine was this idea that State Department wanted to do this dirty work directly. In 1789, when the U.S. had our first meeting of Congress, we created three agencies. We created the State Department, at the time it was called the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's now called the State Department, to manage the American empire and its assets. We created the War Department, which has changed its name in 1948 to the Defense Department, again, to create this false sort of messaging that we're actually not engaged in warfare abroad. We're engaged in forward defense. We're not taking over your country through war. We are just forward defending ourselves on your turf. And then the third agency that was constructed in that first meeting of Congress was the U.S. Treasury. You know, basically, so our money system, our military, and our empire our State Department management were all created, at the foundation of America in our first meeting of our Congress. So when the Department of War changed its name to the Department of Defense and the CIA was created with this plausible deniability doctrine, it was explicitly created under this plausible deniability doctrine under this NSC memo 10-2, which gave the CIA carte blanche to rig elections, to control media, to engage in sabotage, to engage in demolitions, to engage in all manner of black propaganda or subversion, is so long as they maintain so-called plausible deniability, such that, quote, even if it were discovered, it would not be traceable to the US government. So understand there's a concept of that we call diplomacy, which is a very euphemistic word for control or power projection around the world. And we have two branches of the US government, two agencies that are charged with our diplomacy. The State Department does overt diplomacy, and the CIA does covert diplomacy. But the two are one iceberg, and they operate to synchronize with each other such that if there are things that we need to do on the power projection front that State Department wants, but State Department doesn't want attributed to the State Department, such as, say, blowing up a pipeline at the bottom of the Baltic Sea or getting tens of thousands of people in a foreign country on U.S. payroll so that they're financially bribed to print pro-U.S. media, we get the CIA to coordinate that, or at least that was the original structure. And so what was created at the time was called Wisner's Wurlitzer. Wisner's Wurlitzer was Frank Wisner, who is one of the sort of founding architects of the CIA. And he bragged that he was able to play thousands of media outlets around the world like a Wurlitzer, which is sort of like a church organ, one of these sort of multi-layered pianos that you could theoretically play with octopus hands. And so at the time, the US had a huge first mover advantage together with Britain in media, which is that we had a first mover advantage in radio. We had a first mover advantage in TV programming. And the US and Britain had the largest capacities for print media as well. And so on virtually every country on Earth and every continent, the CIA at the time was working directly, funneling money through foundations to create, often using, Cayman Island bank accounts, or using offshore bank accounts starting in the 1950s to do this, through foundations to then funnel money to media organizations on all 6 populated continents. And then the issue was Vietnam happened, and there began to be a major dissent within the US for CIA and Pentagon priorities. Now, again, the CIA had boots on the ground in Vietnam 7 years before we sent in the boys with the military. And the problem is domestic political actors were forming against this foreign policy, State Department, CIA, DOD agenda. And all of it collapses if you don't get citizen funding, because it's all paid for by the taxpayers. So if people decide in domestic politics to vote against or to not fund the priorities of the blob, the foreign policy establishment, then the blob dies. The blob dies on the vine. And so what the CIA started to do in the 1960s and 70s is turn that Wisner's Wurlitzer apparatus inside to use media assets at 400 some different media institutions, as well as even bribing student groups on college campuses in order to get people to support the infinite war apparatus. That structure crumbled in 1975, but it reformed in 1983, and we're living in the aftermath of that. And that's really where it starts to get interesting.
Bloody hell, Mike. I mean, all we'd have to do is memorize what you just said, and we would have an understanding of the inception and execution of the deep state apparatus, how it pertains to foreign policy, media control, and the acquisition of citizen funding. What an extraordinarily comprehensive answer. Do you have trouble sleeping or staying asleep? Perhaps because you're a busy parent or you work incredibly.
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, but that's very interesting how these agencies within the U.S. government collude with each other to cause havoc in foreign countries so we can get involved. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Russell Brand. I've given him a thumbs up. I'm following his channel. This is the video I shared with you. I hope you do the same thing with me. Give me a thumbs up and follow my channel. But this information here is important that we understand. And I want to share one other video with you here on my historical facts page. Let's see here. There we go. In 2013, it was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. Now, this was another thing that took place along with the creation of the CIA. This was under Harry Truman. Okay, he's the one that took over from Roosevelt when he died in office, and then was reelected again, although there's probably some information out there about he probably got elected kind of like Biden did. But at any rate, he created the CIA and something called the Smith-Month Act, and which allowed the media to propagandize foreign countries. Well, it wasn't allowed to do it in the United States, but you could propagandize foreign countries. You mean lie about things in foreign countries so that you would cause chaos and upheaval in foreign countries, and then we could step in and take over? But then it was modernized in 2013, so now the media can propagandize us as well as foreign countries. Let's take a listen. Now, this video here is a couple of years old, so they talk about the Smith-Month Act a decade ago, but actually it was more than that. It was in 2012 is when the bill was created and signed into law in 2013. But let's take a listen here.
So in 2013, it was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. What? Like, that's some scary third world stuff going on. That's the kind of stuff that people use to topple governments, to take away freedoms.
Yes, you heard that right. Almost a decade ago, propaganda was legalized in the United States with the passage of the Smith-Month Modernization Act, which you've probably never heard of. The Smith-Month Modernization Act was buried in the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act for a good reason, because it repealed the 1948 Smith-Month Act, which authorized the State Department and the mainstream media to engage in propagandizing foreign countries, but it prohibited releasing that same propaganda in America for public consumption. This prohibition was lifted when the Smith-Month Modernization Act was signed into law by Obama.
Very simply, Obama gave it a reboot in 2012. So, no matter how outrageous the propaganda may be, it's completely legal.
Propaganda, in other words, a false narrative for whatever specific purpose, is now much, much easier to perpetrate on the people.
Due to the Smith-Month Modernization Act, which went into effect on July the 2nd of 2013, scripted and orchestrated propaganda can now be presented to the American public as factual news.
All right, there you have it, folks. So that's why you hear so much bullshit from the mainstream media. And here's another example here. This is 38 seconds long. Nancy Pelosi explains the wrap-up smear tactic. This was June 22nd, 2017. The mainstream media and D.C. are lying to you. And here's how it works. She'll explain it to you. Now, this is from C-SPAN, folks. This isn't something that somebody just threw together. This is from C-SPAN.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to.
Yep. Sorry about that. I don't know why this is freezing up.
Politics. You call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest.
Oh, you smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest. So in other words, you just lie about someone. You make up some bullshit lie and then leak it to the press.
And then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident. But
yeah, it's just a tactic, folks. It's just a tactic to lie about someone. You mean like a Russian collusion hoax? Or you mean like a quid pro quo call with Ukraine? Or you mean like an insurrection on January 6th to take over the United States government when no one was arrested for carrying a firearm or even a pitchfork? This crazed mob was going to take over our country, destroy our democracy, without any weapons. I guess they were going to throw dirty words at people or something. But this is exactly what our government, Nancy Pelosi, she's a Democrat from California. She was elected into office. But it's okay. It's just a tactic to lie about someone and leak it to the press, and then the press writes it, and then the politicians, Democrats specifically, say, see, look, it's written over here in the New York Times or in the Washington Post, so it must be true. I saw a hearing where some Democrat was hounding, I can't even remember who was involved, but they said, so what do you think about this, about the quid pro quo call that was reported here in the New York Times? No, I believe this was earlier. I think it was about the Russian collusion hoax. And, you know, if someone were to ask me a question about that, now this person gave some blown off answer, but I would say, I didn't, when was the New York Times a part of the U.S. intelligence agencies? Just because something is written in the New York Times, that doesn't make it true. So I don't think anything about it. But then again, you know, you were dealing with the deep state, and they weren't talking very favorably about Donald Trump at that time, so that wasn't what was said. But folks, this is an example here of how we are continually being lied to, and our own government is part of it. They make up the frickin' lies and leak it to the press. All right, and this is Truth Bomb Mary, Fire and Ice. She's had this information suppressed numerous times, and she contacted me and asked me if I would share this video out because she's had it suppressed. I luckily have not had information suppressed, so let's take a listen and see what this is all about.
And the blast wave accelerator was a tidal wave invention that the United States dreamt up with the Soviet Union back in the 40s. Actually, it was going to be used in World War II instead of the bombs, but they decided to use the bombs instead. And the blast wave accelerator exploits the methane deposits on the seabed and causes a fingerprintless, plumeless tidal wave on low-lying areas around the perimeter of any country.
Ever since 2010, I've been censored on this subject. In 2013, I sent this email to a journalist named David Sassoon at Guardian UK. And back before I had a channel, I would just send out emails to anyone who would listen. And this journalist had written this article. Did deep water methane hydrates cause the BP Gulf explosion? I'm going to just read you a short excerpt from this and probably go over it in more depth in a later video, because there will be more than one video on this subject. It's such a deep subject that can't be covered in one video. Even a solid steel pipe has little chance against a 164-fold expansion of volume, something that would render a man 6 feet 6 tall suddenly the height of the Eiffel Tower. Scientists are well aware of the awesome power of these strange hydrocarbons. A sudden large-scale release of methane hydrates is believed to have caused a mass extinction 55 million years ago. Among planners concerned with megadisasters, their sudden escape is considered to be a threat comparable to an asteroid strike or a nuclear war. The Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory at Livermore, California-based Weapons Design Center reports that when released on a large scale, methane hydrates can even cause tsunamis. So it is not surprising to anyone who knows about the physics of these compounds that the Deepwater Horizon rig was lost like a waterfly crumpled by a force of nature scientists are still just getting to know. Number one deep water drilling issue. Solve Climate contacted scientists at the Colorado School of Mines Center for Hydrate Research, who focus on the fundamental science and engineering of methane hydrates to gain further insight. They did not want to speculate on the role of methane hydrates could have played in the BP disaster, but they were willing to provide some basic understanding of the nature and behavior of these familiar but little understood substances. Here's a quote. Gas hydrates are the number one flow assurance issue in deep water drilling. Carolyn Coe, an associate professor and co-director of the Hydrate Center, told us in an exclusive interview. She explained that the oil and gas industry has a lot of experience with methane hydrates because they have to be kept from forming in pipes or they will clog the lines, stop the flow of oil, and pose a danger. Drillers use inhibitors such as methanol to keep hydrates from crystallizing inside drill rigs operating at great depth where the conditions for methane hydrate formation are ideal. I was going to show this film clip next, but it has disappeared like much of my research into this subject. So let's go back to this email. I told him I just read his article and that I have some very important information for him. There's a document from the 2003 Methane Hydrate Research and Development Joint Industry Project Workshop that proposes the use of seawater for drilling fluid in experimental methane hydrate extraction. Mississippi Canyon was a planned area of exploration for leg 2 of effort, and the concerns outlined in this document read exactly like a timeline of the events leading up to the Deepwater Horizon disaster. They even propose using 2 boreholes and what Halliburton did, heating up the pipe to cure cement, supposedly. This document talks about heating the seawater in the pipe to steam to punch a hole in the impermeable hydrate layer to get at the gas field beneath. I want to switch gears here and explain the nature of this substance. Methane hydrate is little molecular cages of ice, like you see in the top left corner of this picture of the ice that's on fire. There's a lattice-like structure of ice molecules, and one molecule of CH4 methane gets trapped inside these cages of ice at the molecular level. Now expand that out, they build on each other until there's a huge ice mound impregnated with methane. This stuff forms at very specific temperature and pressure conditions. It is compressed by 164 times when it's within the ice lattice. So when that ice lattice melts, the gas expands 164 times. And this, from the human perception perspective, if you were to hold this stuff in your hand, this ice in your hand, you could hold it in your hand and keep it in the palm of your hand and take a lighter and light it on fire.
So methane hydrate is a combination of water molecules and methane, where the methane sits inside a cage of these water molecules and it forms at high pressure and low temperature. The methane hydrates that we commonly talk about are in the Arctic and the other very common places on continental margins. So as you go into the offshore, the combination of cold water and high pressure leads to a provenance of methane hydrates. Methane hydrates are a huge potential energy resource. There's an estimate that there is 7,000 trillion cubic feet of methane available in these hydrate reservoirs in the Gulf of Mexico alone. To give you a sense of what that means, that's 250 years worth of gas given our present consumption rates in the United States. So it's a tremendous potential supply. The problem is how to produce methane hydrates economically and environmentally. We don't understand how the material behavior of these rocks changes as we produce them. If you take that methane hydrate from depth and you don't control the pressure and the temperature, it's going to disassociate. The majority of it has just bubbled off into the atmosphere as you raise that rock. One of the most fascinating challenges of this project is to be able to drill and sample these hydrate deposits. We're drilling a hole in a mile of water, and then we're drilling a hole almost 1,000 meters below that. You've got to go down to that area. You've got to take what we call a core, a small cylindrical sample of the rock that has methane hydrate into it. And while you're down there, you need to seal that sample inside of a pressure vessel, like a pressure cooker, because that sample is under pressure and you have to safely store that sample for further analysis. Here's a resource where we know there's tremendous amounts of methane, of natural gas stored. And we want to explore the potential for that as a fuel of the future. The University of Texas is taking the lead of actually sampling these potential hydrate reservoirs in the Gulf of Mexico. At the Jackson School and at UT as a whole, we're committed to making fundamental advances. And we're also excited when there's potential for those advances to have societal impact. A better understanding of the methane hydrate resource has potential to change a lot of lives down the road.
Yeah.
And it's forming ice.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, nice.
If you look at bubble cam, you still got a little bit
Exactly. I think
filling to do.
Yeah, there where it gets trapped on the funnel, we have the formation.
Good job, video.
Yeah. Looks like it's forming one big, massive hydrate bubble in the tube.
Are these going up
Yeah,
into
yeah.
that metal canister?
They will be. Right now they're sealed
Yeah.
off.
So
Oh,
it
they're
may be
just in there.
trigger frozen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like we are not getting more than what we have right now from the angle of the funnel. I think we just resample what we get here.
Okay, we go now?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Oh, wow.
Perfect.
That was
Okay.
Wow.
That worked really well.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Great.
All right. Nice and wide.
Okay, so the where we'll get the temperature probe is back where the bubbles are coming out.
Right.
Would be nice to get a frame grab with that marker right there. Yeah. It shows us the current.
Time is just flying tonight.
Yeah, it's been a fun sight.
Do you need the lat long?
Let's see where the bubbles come out, and then we'll make
No,
a
inside.
readjustment.
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah.
Wow.
We need to reposition the probe.
Wow.
Life is the bubbles.
We got no troubles. Life is the bubbles.
Right.
Jeez.
It looks cool on bubble cam too. Yeah, see bubble cam
Wow.
They collect in bubble cam? Yeah.
Oh my
there? That's
God.
right, they collect there.
Jeez.
Collect enough of them, the whole thing just lifts off the ocean.
Yeah.
Really disappointing in the temperature change.
Yeah. No. Well, it's a negative result is still a result. Yeah.
To say, now watch the one next to the hydrophone. It's not going to be bubbling anymore.
Yeah, we stole all its bubbles.
I think we're going to cause a warming event here. I think we're going to cause a warming event here.
I'm bringing it out, Bob.
Oh, look at the ice on the lens. Yeah. Wow. Getting an up-close look at methane hydrates. Whoa. Look at all those bubbles. Get a methane bath.
Mm-hmm.
Bubbles.
Ooh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Jackpot.
It's a nice bubble stream.
That's a great.
We also make carbon dioxide hydrate, ethane hydrate, propane, a number of different structures. So liquid nitrogen is very cold. It's about 100 degrees colder than the temperature at which these hydrate samples would dissociate when they would decompose to ice plus gas on the tabletop. In here we have a little piece of methane hydrate. It's enclosed in a soft metal jacket. So the samples we make, they're polycrystalline. They look like snow. It's like compacted snow. But honestly, it does contain gas inside. Take a little piece off here, and as it warms up, you'll begin to see it pop. It's reverting to ice plus gas, and then as the ice would melt, as it continues to warm, it'll end up being water plus gas. So this will form anywhere you have water and gas at moderately low temperatures or high pressure.
My name is Steve Kirby. I'm a geophysicist here with the U.S. Geological Survey in Menlo Park. I work with Laura Stern, who's also a geophysicist in this lab that is devoted towards the investigation of planetary ices and gas hydrates.
Gas hydrates in nature occur in very remote places, and they are very complex with the sediment interactions and the conditions that they form under, and samples that are brought up are under some sort of alteration or decomposition.
We've educated ourselves by experiment in learning how to make them in a form that's suitable for doing material property testing.
We start in the main portion of the lab making ordinary water ice that we use as a reactant for the hydrates. We grind and sieve that ice and we pack them into pressure vessels. And we take that package and we put it into this freezer. And we load them onto these two ports. And we evacuate all the pore space between the ice grains. And then we have these reservoirs that have pre-chilled gas in them that we then put into that pore space to react with the ice to make hydrate. So we start simple. We make the pure end member hydrates, and then we add complexities in a known fashion so that the properties that we measure, we understand the individual effects of those complexities, unlike looking at just the samples retrieved from nature, which are so difficult to analyze. So this is a sample of, this is a structure 2 gas hydrate. It's predominantly methane, has a little bit of ethane in it. We're going to demonstrate how much gas is actually in this. If you bring a cubic meter of methane hydrate from the ocean floor up to the lab and put it on a tabletop, it would release 163 times its volume of gas at standard conditions.
Amazing. Simply amazing, folks. So, I've heard information about, like, the Bermuda Triangle, that sometimes there are instances of ships just disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle. And I've also heard that that could very well have been caused by methane being released from the Earth and causing so much gas in the water that the ship that happens to be sailing over this area when the methane is released cannot stay buoyant because there's so much gas diluting the density of the water, so the boat just sinks. Now, that's what I've heard. I have no proof of that, but this is very interesting here about this, where this methane is clean burning, but yet I think Truth Bomb Mary, and let's click on this Rumble link, as being censored because the powers that be don't want people to know that there's that much energy. He said, 240 years? At our current rate of fuel, that this would last 240 years. Well, the Bill Gates of the world and the Schwabs of the world don't want us to know that. They want us to suffer. They want us to cut back on, everything that we do and eat bugs and not own anything and be happy. Because they don't want us to know that there's that many resources out there. Again, they're lying to us. Okay? All right, let's get back here to the main page. And Wendy Bell released a video today on Memorial Day some gave all. I want to wrap up with her message on Memorial Day. It's a very good one. I think you'll enjoy it here.
Well, hello, America, and beyond the fruited plain, welcome home on this Memorial Day to the Wendy Bell radio program. As always, we think these are the days we should be together. We should be connecting. And I know you're going to be spending time with family, perhaps. You're out in the yard doing some work, maybe listening to the show. We wanted to be here because we have important stuff to discuss, and we have a great hour designated to our friend, Army Ranger Sean Parnell, just a fabulous patriot. And he would shy from the word hero, but absolutely a hero. So join with us today. Pull up your chair, grab some coffee, get comfortable, and stay a while, because we have a beautiful show to provide you today. Welcome home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. We do have a few newsier stories a little bit later on in the program, but we really wanted today to be something that I think we all need. Because there are good stories to share, there are heartbreaking stories to share. There's some facts and figures and interesting tidbits about war. And I find this to be such a relevant conversation, as it's no small feat for the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency to not have any war. And here we are now embroiled in all these conflicts that we're funding, and people are dying who needn't be. And it seems so predictable because we know better. My job over the weekend was to mulch my yard. I have a pretty good size yard. Joe and I have a pretty good size yard for the city of Pittsburgh. We probably have, I don't know, a quarter to a third of an acre. Not huge, but enough so that there's grass that looks really trashy. And we have hedges that need to be trimmed and a bunch of mulch that needed to be spread. And I haven't done it in a couple years. Neighbor has been doing construction on his house, is building a pool. And I think he's been building a pool for the better part of the 21st century, I should say, because it's taken forever. And the dust and the dirt and the weeds and the yuck, and I just have not felt it. So last week I got a bee in my bonnet and I was like, you know what, dang it, I'm going to go do this. I went to Lowe's, got 20 bags of mulch, ended up needing 10 more, then called a friend of ours who owns a hardware store, and he delivered 30 more. So 60 bags total. Wow, right? And Joe and I edged, and we pulled weeds, and we opened up bag after bag after bag. And on Saturday, I did it basically by myself, and I was grateful for that. There's nothing like clearing your mind when you're sweating and breaking your back on stuff, right? By the time I had pulled all the weeds, edged all the garden, put down all of the mulch and spread it, I took Murphy for a little bit of a walk and came up the street right across from ours. Our driveway opens up to a cul-de-sac. And I walked him down the cul-de-sac and back up so I could see our house from our neighbor's perspective. And that's when it hit me. Because right in the middle of that yard, where all of the beds now have been tended to, and everything looks neat and orderly, and the flowers are blooming and things have been trimmed, is our most beautiful and majestic American flag. And I really, really wanted to get it done for today. I'm not one for coincidence. I was talking to Brock this morning before the show about a trip when I was a little girl in the 8th grade. My class took a 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C., to Arlington National Cemetery. And it just so happened that mine was one of two names kind of pulled out of a hat who would represent our class and change the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And wouldn't you know, just about 45 minutes ago, my husband woke up, got the day off, and he sent me a picture from his Facebook memories. And it was this day, 12 years ago, that we took our 5 sons to Arlington National Cemetery, to that very breathtaking ceremony where the sentinel at the tomb of the unknown soldier is changed. And everything is just so. It's neat, it's crisp, it's mechanical, but with this fluidity, almost like a symphony. The clicks, the steps, motions with the gun, all of it meticulous. That's where my heart is today, I think. How many people never got their loved ones back? And then how many came back only to be ravaged by guilt because they had left people behind? Today is a day to celebrate, to honor, to love, to respect, to pay tribute. And I know we each do it in our own way. Some people go golfing, some people have cookouts, some people go to the pool, and others, probably service members, spend a lot of time quiet, thinking, the way I did as I was mulching my yard this weekend. We promise that we will never forget, and we won't forget. But it's easy to get distracted with all the news out of Washington, the Beltway, all these trials, this nonsense, the things going on in our own individual homes, struggling just to keep it together, because I feel that way too sometimes. But the stories you're going to hear on this program today are going to run the gamut. They're going to make you cry. They're going to make you smile. But beyond that, they're going to make you think. And I think today that we need a real infusion of American patriotism. We need flags everywhere. We need to teach our sons and daughters. We need to encourage service. Though I admit it's hard to raise your hand and volunteer for a military, for a president whose values are un-American. This is the impasse, that critical point, I believe. That moment where we have to reset. All of you who are listening today, who will make a trip out to a cemetery to either plant a flag or deliver a flower or a wreath, who one day changed forever. And you know you'll never be the same again. Today is about you, because you are not alone. You have a grateful nation behind you. And sometimes it seems like there's too much noise and nobody has a focus. And the whole idea of love of country, this idea of making America great again, which has been so twisted and manipulated and molested into something it's not. That is what you feel in your heart. There is no more meaningful journey on a day like today than to go to one of those cemeteries and just say a prayer and give thanks to the men and women who at very, very young ages, the lion's share of them, who didn't even have an opportunity to grow up, had their lives cut short And today, we mourn the families that they were not able to have. And the best way to do that is to serve ours the best we can. Memorial Day, paying tribute and giving thanks. When we come back, kind of a nice story out of Washington, out of Congress, as Democrats and Republicans, veterans in Congress, do something together in advance of this solemn holiday. We're going to share with you what it is and why it's so meaningful. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, let's go ahead and move forward here. Get to that next part.
Comfortable, like-minded people.
Back
track.
Just a bit.
Want to thank Kelly Morgan. She helps change. Are paying attention to this program are nowhere near. You walk in, just comfortable, like-minded people, working hard to a common goal, getting strong, getting in shape. More Gains Fitness, MOR.
Okay, here we go. Sorry about that.
Friday, hush money trial is the classified documents. There is news to talk about. It was, I think, on Friday that Joe Biden put out that he's planning on making some kind of an address from the White House after the verdict in Donald Trump's hush money trial. Is it the hush money trial? Is it the classified documents? I think it's the hush money trial that we're talking about, because all these other cases are in limbo right now, various proceedings, but this is where they're going to hang their hat. And if you're reading the tea leaves, it sounds very much like the fix is in. You got the judge in the case who has watered down the bar of proof needed for the jury to convict Donald Trump. It does not need to be a unanimous jury decision. The judge in this case, Juan Merchan, who himself is just dirty in this. So dirty. He's told the jury you don't have to be unanimous, so you can see what's coming. And we're going to have Joe Biden have a comment about it on Thursday. Ostensibly, I'm going to presume that's when we get a verdict. All right? So we're watching that. It's just gross. So when I can share with you something that has Democrats and Republicans actually doing something that is apolitical, but is completely service-oriented, I think that's something worth noting, particularly on this Memorial Day. And so what we got here is Congress, like veterans in Congress, both sides of the aisle coming together and cleaning the Vietnam War Memorial, that amazing wall, that breathtaking wall. And they sat down with Margaret Brennan from, what's it called? Is it Face the Nation or something like that? Whatever. It's CBS's weekend show. And they say something that I think is very meaningful. It's a reminder as we deal with all of these headlines and all of this junk, that shared service, that love of country, that patriotism, the respect for the people who gave everything, does not know politics. Sometimes people actually team up and do the right thing. Here's audio soundbite number 1. This is Congress cleaning this beautiful memorial. You're going to hear Florida Representative Mike Waltz. He is a Republican. You're going to also hear from New York Democrat Congressman Pat Ryan. Listen, good stuff.
Once I got elected, and I saw the acrimony and the infighting, and I said, let's get a group of veterans together, people who really have skin in the game. I think this is important for the American people to see. To see us honoring our forefathers, to see us where Democrat, Republican, black, white, brown, none of that matters. It just matters that we're all Americans, we're all veterans, and we're honoring those that came before us. And it's turned into a bit of a tradition now.
This is the most powerful thing I've done in Congress, truly. It's very emotional, and it's positive. I mean, there's so many divisive forces, and so to get together with fellow veterans, all services, all generations, and just actually do something with your hands that improves the world, that honors our veterans, that prepares this memorial for hundreds of thousands of Americans that are going to come here this weekend. It's really, it's an honor. And again, I think it's important to show, as Mike said, the American people that there are people trying to bridge this divide that we have right now. And,
Sure.
And I thank Mike for organizing this, because I think it's been special for all of us. All of us.
So can we get behind the idea that if we work together in specifically to honor the bravest men and women among us, the less than 1% of our country, that volunteers to go and do what I don't think any of us could possibly fathom? This idea of service continues with these two men, and I want you to hear this because it's a very interesting point. Why do we have kids going off to college when what they should be doing, perhaps, is serving their country first? Listen.
And one of the things that we're both adamant and advocates of is getting us back to national service as a country. That's not a draft. That doesn't necessarily have to be in uniform, but it could be with the national park, inner city tutoring, elderly care. But how do we get young people out in an environment where they're learning leadership, discipline, followership, serving a cause bigger than themselves, and with fellow Americans who may not look or come from the same backgrounds as them? I think there's ways we can incentivize that. You know, people here are talking about just giving away college or just eliminating debt. Well, how about the American taxpayer gets something in exchange for that in terms of service? You graduate high school, you go serve a year or two, maybe it's FEMA, maybe it's the Peace Corps, and then you get some type of benefit. So I think we need to rethink service as a country.
And I agree 100%. Now, here's the frustration. And you can be frustrated even on a day such as today, when you think you should turn that off and just open up your heart to feeling the way we should feel about the men and women who've served this country and those who gave everything. Why can't we get away from all the petty garbage? Can you imagine what could have been accomplished if all they had been doing wasn't based on destroying one man? But if it was focused just even once on doing something that was reasonable, something that was responsible, coming up with a national program. How many kids at 18 don't know what they want to do? How about most? So there's a program through which all of them serve in some capacity, whether it's in the Peace Corps or the Park Service or it's in the local, whatever, to receive some kind of internship with some kind of service connected to it, to open up doors and do something collectively that's good? Isn't that just so novel? Well, I wanted to share that with you because when we come back, we have two stories that are kind of mind-blowing, particularly on this holiday. They are wholly un-American. And every single time we have one of these stories, we have to share them with you so you can see how dark the other side is.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Again, let me move on here to the Rumble link. The link to this video is in the description box below, so if you'd like to watch more of it or the rest of it, by all means, scroll down there and click that link. Wendy Bell Radio, this is the video I shared with you. Giving her a thumbs up, following her channel. I certainly hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let me get back here to the description box and remind you folks that full disclosure here, these are not my videos. These videos come directly from the producer. I don't get any royalties or commissions for sharing this information out, but I do get the satisfaction that I'm giving you the truth, which is way more than what you're going to get from the deep state or the mainstream media. I have over 50 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here at Murtech.com. And incidentally, the link to Murtech.com is right here in the description box. Let me just refresh the screen here. All right, I got some live chats. That's great. Let me go ahead and pause this. There we go. All right, Sand416, loved your video yesterday. Thank you. Deb Brand, it's great when I'm time poor and I can come to your channel to see the truth again. Thank you. I appreciate that, Deborah. And P.S. Happy Memorial Day from your Aussie pals. Okay, thank you so much from down under. All right, let me go ahead and close this out. And the live chat will go away when the live stream is over, so I'm going to copy these chats right here into a comment of my own. Okay, there we go. Now they'll be permanent with the video. As the live chats go away, it doesn't matter because Sand416 and Deb Brandt are right here with the video. Okay, looks like I have a notification. I'll get to that after the video's over. But let's see here. We have 68 people watching, 9 thumbs up. That's great. If I could get about 59 more people to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate that. I'm running a little long here. I normally like to keep my videos around an hour. I'm at an hour and 11 minutes right now. But I do want to remind you folks, Mertech.com is a free site. Tons and tons of information here at your fingertips. I do all the searching for you and put it here in your one-stop shop for news and information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. So share this information out with your friends, contacts, and family members. In fact, right here's a share button. If you click that, it's going to bring you up the option to share it on Facebook, share it on Truth Social, WhatsApp, right here, email it out, or on Twitter. You can even copy the link and paste it to any other social media platform you want to. I'm going to share this myself on Twitter, just to show you how easy it is. When Twitter comes up here, I just hit the post button, and let's take a view of it, and right there it is. Just like magic. Okay. I want to thank you folks so much for your time. Hopefully I'll get to see you again tomorrow, and may God bless.